It was a day. There are 9 games on. We had huge, gigantic, absolutely ridiculous performances. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Mark Williams. We've got news, we've got injuries, we've got everything, but we've mostly got Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I've recently been assessing a lot in my life, and I think there's just a lot of things that we need to just strip back, go back to basics, and just go back to the original use of certain things and products and things in our life. Hence, I've been eating a lot of cornflakes. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at LockedOnFantasyBasketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LockedOnNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Go to LockedOnDaily.com and check out all of the newsletters. Every team's got a newsletter, and you can sign up for your favorite one, or even one that you hate. Maybe you want to find out about all that's going on with the Jimmy Butler nonsense. You can do it at the Locked On Heat newsletter, and that's at LockedOnDaily.com. I'll always take a thumb, though. If you've got a couple to spare, I'll take one of those off you. Leave a comment as well, and I think we'll get along just fine. It is National Handwriting Day. I won't be celebrating my handwriting. It looks like, I don't even know, it looks like someone's doing it with their toes. It's pretty rough. But that's because I'm a genius and my hands work too slow for my brain. I'm just, too much is happening. Or I'm lazy. I don't know. You can figure out where it fits in between. But it's National Handwriting Day, and that means that it doesn't mean that because those two things aren't correlated, but we are actually just going to go in now and get a bit of news off our chests. And of course, James Butler has been, or allegedly been, suspended again. On the official NBA injury report at the time I record this, he's not listed, but the reports are the Heat intend to suspend James for the next 2 games. Cool. Great. When is this stuff going to end? I don't know. I'm sure at some point we're going to get a trade coming down. There's going to be a million moving pieces. People are going to overreact to certain things, and it's not really going to mean much for fantasy. But it's going to happen, I'm guessing. But also, knowing Pat Riley, and I don't, but knowing bits and pieces about Pat Riley, what about he goes, well, we're not doing very much here at the moment. Butler's not trying. What if I just sit him out the whole season? We just sort of go about our business, and I don't give in to this nonsense. Imagine that happens. It's not far-fetched. Yeah, Butler is poisoning the entire team because he's the best competitor, the best teammate. Everything's the best about this guy. Drags the team to the finals, and then, here we are. I say drags. But maybe Riley does that. I don't know. Anyway, Butler suspended the next 2 games. What it does bump up Jovic. It does bump up Jaquez. But we've seen Jaquez without Butler. Was he good? Not really. He had a couple of good ones, but not really as a consistently good player. But at least it bumps that floor up. It means more for Robinson in some games, but less in others. It means more for Rozier in some games and less in others. We have seen this story before. We've seen it. The only difference now is that Khalil Ware's in the starting mix. I say White questionable, not as anything weird, but more just to talk about Kobe White. Because the Bulls, and this is where I think that maybe I don't have an advantage, but I think if you listen to this show, you have an advantage. Because I'm an idiot, right? Little things get into my head, and I'm able to sort of remember a lot of these things. The Bulls have done this 3 times already this season. Is that a coach will come out and say something, the organization will tweet it or whatever, and then the injury report says something different. So what it was, Billy Donovan came out and said, yeah, Kobe White, look, nothing structural that we can really see in there, but it's very unlikely he plays tomorrow. Injury report, Kobe White questionable. They've done it twice already this season. Once with Ayo Dosunmu, where they said, yeah, he's out 10 days, next game, doubtful. Cool. And then one with Josh Giddey, where Josh is like, yeah, maybe I'm ready on Monday, and Saturday they put in question mark. Of course, he didn't play on those games. So this is a pattern with the Bulls. So, yeah, look, and maybe this is wrong. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe Kobe does play tomorrow. But this will be the 3rd time that they've said, yeah, the guy's not playing, and they just chuck him questionable on the injury report anyway. And then we talked about it earlier today, the Dereck Lively injury. We'll talk about it more today when we do the Mavs recap, which is coming up next. Foot fracture. The Mavs said reevaluate in 4 weeks. Sham said 2 to 3 months. Reevaluated in 4 weeks does not mean returning in 4 weeks. If it's a foot stress fracture or a chip in the bone of your foot, you're not back in 4 weeks. It's not happening in 4 weeks. He is out 2 to 3 months. Lean towards 3. Get him ready for the playoffs. That means fantasy season is over. The 4 weeks is, and I talked about this at length on the preview show, I think it was, or maybe it was the waiver wire show. I don't remember. But it was on one of those shows where I talked about how teams have now used this verbiage, this nomenclature, to talk about players and their returns. They don't say he'll be back in 5 weeks. They just say reevaluated because it eases the pressure. Because remember that stuff with the Bulls and Derrick Rose? Even Mark Williams and the Hornets last season, where the Bulls, because, what an unbelievably run organization, they would say, yeah, Derrick Rose is actually available. He's fine to go, but we don't know why he's not playing. Nah, it's just something wrong. Remember that? Yeah, that happened. Because they set a timeline, and when it got to it, they go, I don't know. Why is he not playing? Teams say reevaluated way before a guy's ready to come back. They do the reevaluation. We just saw it with Chet Holmgren. And they say, yeah, let's do it again in 3 weeks. That's what I think is happening with Lively. If you don't know what to do with Lively being out, just go and grab Daniel Gafford. That's the easy one here. We'll talk about that when we go into these games. In fact, we might as well just go in now. Minnesota and the Dallas Mavericks was our first game up. The Wolves win it barely, 115-114 against half a Dallas team, which it's good that they got a win because every win counts. But is it a good win? Is it? No, not really. It's bad because they went into this game, Minnesota, against a Dallas team with nobody there. They played an 8-man rotation. No, they didn't. They played a 7-man rotation because the 8th guy played under 9 minutes, and they still won by 1 point. Let's talk about the important things here. Jaden McDaniels played 40 whopping minutes. Amazing that he stayed out of foul trouble enough to play those many minutes. He had 27 and 8 with 4 steals and 3 blocks. It's a ridiculously good game from Jaden. He is flying at the moment. Do I believe Jaden McDaniels has turned the corner to be a consistent 12-team league guy? Absolutely not. No way. Not in a million years. But he's doing it now, so just use him. Use him while it's working. It won't last long term, I'm guessing, but use it while he's working. Big minutes. The other thing is Mike Conley. 32 minutes, 18, 5 and 8, 2 steals, 4 threes. Unbelievable. Conley's shooting this year has been dreadful. But we have also seen this situation play out all season. He started for 30 games already, and he was not worthwhile as a 12-team league guy. We've also seen him start now with DiVincenzo out and has not been worthwhile. In this one, he was. Great. We got 32 minutes. And like I've said for periods of time this season, if Mike Conley is playing 28 minutes a night, yes, he's a 12-team league guy. If he's not, he's not. And they lent heavy into him here because Rob Dillingham, who had 18 points or whatever it was, 15 points on 75% shooting in 18 minutes last game, went scoreless in 9. This is why you don't add Rob Dillingham. And I know people have, and it makes no sense. It's why you don't add him. It was never going to happen, and they cut him back even further. I don't think this minute split is the likely way it goes, though. Randall had 16 and 6. Gobert had 14 and 6. Good numbers from both of those two. And Naz Reid was a little bit quieter, but still got 27 minutes, but the volume from him was down. Edwards, 21, 5 and 7 is fine. But he shot 32 from the field. He had no defensive stats, and he continues to be, I think, a sizable disappointment. I'd say that's probably a fair way of critiquing his season. He's not that far off where I thought he'd be. I think I had him at 16 or 17. He's 24th for the season. But obviously, if you went a first round on him, it hasn't really worked out super well. On to the Dallas side of the equation. Like I said, they just had nobody there. So their lineup was very different. Quentin Grimes started over Spencer Dinwiddie. There was already Gafford was already starting. And then Klay Thompson was out. And they went with Olivier Maxence Prosper. But that's not all. There's no Luka, obviously. There was no Najee Marshall. There's no Jaden Hardy. There was no Dwight Powell. There's no Dante Exum. Everyone's out. Kyrie played 38 minutes. He had 36, 4 and 9. Great. Dan Gafford, 33 minutes. 14 and 12 with 3 blocks. Very solid. Last game, he was ridiculously good. These are more the expectation lines for Gafford, which is great and must be rostered everywhere. He'll also have nights where he gets into extreme foul trouble and can't play 30 minutes. Maxi Kleber was the backup. He played 16 minutes for 10 points. By the way, why is Markieff Morris even on this roster? What is the point? Can Bro even play? No. No Dwight Powell. No Dereck Lively. What's he there for? Vibes. Executive, the general manager of something. I don't even know. I was trying to think of something funny and it wouldn't come out. That's okay. Paul Washington Jr. had 30 and 7, while Dinwiddie had 9 points. Of course he did. But the other two starters who jumped in did even worse. Grimy, 5 points, 36 minutes, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Prosper, 4 and 4 in his 25 minutes. I know that everyone was out here. They play again tomorrow, so if you added Grimes, you hold for tomorrow. But I don't think that Grimes or Prosper or Marshall or even Dinwiddie are a must-roster guys here as we move forward. There was a bit to talk about in that game, so we did it. We're going to come back and talk about more. But today's episode, it is brought to you by Talkspace. Therapy can be a game changer for so many of us. It helps manage stress, improve your sleep, get your productivity increased. Everything you do, your communication, it all can be improved with therapy. You've got to find the right therapist. You've got to find a way to fit it into your schedule, and that is where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider, making getting help easier, more accessible, and more affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours. It's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize mental health. And you guys can get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter the promo code SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA. The promo code is SPACE80, SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That is Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA. Promo code is SPACE80. Let's do the second game of the day. Detroit and Atlanta. This is the beginning of a very busy period in the schedule here for the Atlanta Hawks. So we knew there was going to be a risk of rests with these guys. They didn't necessarily rest in this one, but we still got more games coming up. The Pistons do get the victory in the end, 114-104. And I won't say the Pistons are good, but actually, you know what? I will. They are good. They're playing very, very well. And they are putting up big numbers on a relatively regular basis. Let's start with Cade Cunningham, 29, 6 and 11, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Really, really good. Now, I know someone will want me to say it. Say that he had 10 turnovers. He did have 10 turnovers, and that's really bad, obviously. But they won. He had 11 assists, and I will firmly believe if you are prioritizing assists in a category league, and all the numbers always bear this out, if you are prioritizing winning assists and comfortably winning assists each week, then you're going to lose turnovers. It is just an impossible needle to thread that requires so many resources to do it that I think costs you in other areas. So yeah, 10 turnovers is bad. But part of the reason you have Cade is to get big assists. It's not a good game, don't get me wrong. Asar Thompson was great, 16 points. He had 3 steals. You want that. That is what you want. But I still look at it and go, it's still just 24. He shot 78 from the field to get there. He had 1 rebound. 1? I don't believe that Asar is a must-roster player. He is fine to have, but not a must. While Leaky Beasley had 19 but played only 23 minutes. 5 threes for him. Tim Hardaway's little run of big scoring games is firmly in the rearview mirror. He had 3 points on 13%. He did have 3 steals, but it's very hard. In fact, it's impossible to rely upon him. And we're really there on Toby Harris, aren't we? He's terrible. Like, at the end of last season, he fell off in a big way. And I thought, all right, new location. Clearly things are sour in Philadelphia. They paid him a lot of money. He'll be the number 2 offensive option. He'll go back to a level that's not quite 2 years ago, but a little bit under. Nah, he's worse. I think he's just cooked. I think that we get to this age. Well, I'm well past that age. But you get to that age, and he's just done. He's hit the cliff. He's smashed face first into it. 9 points in 37 minutes. And I know that I thought that he could be a top 70 player pretty easily this season. Very wrong. Not going to happen. It's hard to say because he's not losing the starting job. But man, get that garbage out of here, Jack. You're just going to take it upon yourself? Nah, you're fine. It's hard. I'll say it this way: it's hard to look at Harris and justify saying he's a must keep. I guess that's edging the must drop or edging the drop, but it is. He's dropping. Like, what is this garbage we're getting consistently? I think if I had Tobias Harris, I probably wouldn't drop him. And I do have him in 1 or 2 leagues. I probably wouldn't drop him. But everything looks pretty bad. It looks rough, man. Isaiah Stewart had 12 boards and 3 blocks. He's been a very good source of blocks this season. They'd really gone away when he played power forward, but they're back and he's useful enough to stream in that spot. On the Hawks side of things, let's talk about Jalen Johnson. The first couple of games back had been not great, and he still can't shoot. 38% here. But 17, 9, and 4 with 6 steals. And I think is that his second 6-steal game in the last 2 or 3 games? I think it might be. Capella had 16 and 10 in 21 minutes with 2 blocks. So Capella's moved to the bench. His minutes have dropped, and he's put up 2 of his best games of the season. He's been a hard guy to consider a rosterable player all season, but these 2 games have been great. So if you wanted to try it out, I don't know, maybe. People froth league winner Nick Richards, and Capella's doing something similar. Okongwu started 27 minutes. Not a great game. 9 and 10 stealing a block. Still got to roster him. While Trae Young had only 13 points on 13 shots with bad free throws. What is going on there, Trae? But he did have 9 assists and 2 steals. And Daniels had 20 and 10. Good games there. Vic Krejci, we would have hoped for a little bit more from him. He had 9 points with 3 threes. But what about my man DeAndre Hunter, the field goal percentage merchant? Let's do a quick check on some of his numbers. 10 points on 14%. Oh no. No threes, no rebounds. But you did get 3 assists, which is about a year's supply of assists from DeAndre Hunter. And it's not always going to be the case. It's not always going to be the case. But in the vast majority of cases, when someone has a run where it's fueled by insane shooting, it is not going to last. Nearly every single time. And you will be well advised to see if somebody, and I know that people exist because they argue with me when I talk about it, but seeing if you can get value back at the level of production that person's providing. I would still hold Hunter, but if he moves to be outside a 12-team league guy, I'm not going to be shocked because it's literally just who he's been his entire career. And we are seeing the cool down happen right now. Let's talk about the next game. We're going into the Phoenix Suns. The Brooklyn Nets. This was a very, very easy victory for the Suns. 108-84, the blowout. The Suns rolled out the same starting lineup, and we got 22 minutes of BDNR. 15 rebounds is very good. I thought he'd be able to do a lot more against this Nets team, but he had 8 points. He played 22 minutes. He had nary a single steal, block, or assist. He took 4 shots. Yeah? Remember, the first game was the bullshit game. The next one was well below expectations. This one is probably fair enough, even though he still only played 22 minutes. Actually, nothing about my evaluation of Nick has changed. It's the same thing always. I will do my very best when analyzing any player not to make snap judgments. So there were people who were like, just take the L, man, just admit you were wrong. I will never do it after 1 or 2 games. I'll never do it after 10 games if the evaluation I believe sticks. I'll admit that I'm wrong on many things. And in this one, I still don't think he's very good. He'll have better games than this one, I'm sure. He'll have worse games than this one, I'm also sure. And if you have him, you just hold through it. But the idea that he is a top-end player is completely silly in my mind. And this is not outrageous, this sort of game. Booker played 36 minutes in a 22-point win. That's a lot. 32, 2, and 6 with 2 steals, while Durant had 24 and 8 with a block. Good games from both of those players. Plumlee got back into the mix a little bit. 17 minutes for him with 4 steals, 6 and 5. We don't roster him in 12s or 14s, obviously not. And Grayson Allen played 24. Ryan Dunn played 23. Tyus Jones played 26. And Royce O'Neal played 23. And that's without Bradley Beal. All of them eating each other human caterpillar style. It's very, very hard to rely upon any of these guys. And this is without Beal. Now, Beal might return at some point. Beal might not be there. Butler might be there. It is hard for me to see Dunn, Allen, O'Neal, or even Jones be labeled absolute must-rosters. Jones' assists are valuable, absolutely. But the other stuff that he does and the way they pull his minutes back down, and if Butler gets there, it's worse. It is way worse. So I would find him more of a fringy sort of a player than a must. On to the Nets side of this equation. It's hard to really know how to talk about the Nets in this one. Jalen Wilson started with D'Angelo Russell resting. Tyrese Martin started in place of Cam Johnson, who aggravated that ankle for about the 3rd time this season. And I think he's going to miss a little bit of time here. Keon Johnson, who'd been doing nothing, jumped up and had 20 in 30 minutes. Of course he did. 56% shooting, 16 attempts. But this is the thing. No Cam, no Cam. That's 2 Cams. No D'Lo, no Ben Simmons, no Zaire Williams. I don't know when or what happens with those guys. And we've seen with Keon is that there's certain games that he'll be good and certain ones that he's bad. And it's not always just because players are in or out. Jalen Wilson was pretty good, 15, 4, and 3, but I don't feel strong about it. Claxton had 10 and 12, cool. Clowney played a lot of minutes, but man, 20% shooting. But also, remember this, that is a block, or that's 4 blocks in the last 3 games for Clowney, and that was what everyone was complaining about. Where are the defensive stats? Stealing a block here again. He played 34 minutes. He shot 20%. It stinks. It's really bad. 7 and 5. But like, let's again do the thing. Shoot 40%. It's 2 more shots you make. One of them's a 3. Add 5 points on. 12, 5, steal, block, 2 and 3 threes. You'd be absolutely wrapped with it. Yeah, he's going to have bad nights. And yeah, he is going to be on the fringes, I would say, for three weeks, maybe more. But I do think that if you've got the ability to hold, they are clearly prioritizing Noah Clowney. Their defensive stats have come back, and now we just need it all to put together. Not going to blow you away, not going to be a league winner, nothing like that. But there's enough little signs there for me to suggest that, yeah, I can see it coalescing. We'll find out. Tyrese Martin had 2 points on 10% shooting. I mean, cool. And Daron Sharp had 8, 9, 2 steals, which is fine as a backup. And if he does get a starting spot at any point, Sharp, with Claxton fake injured or whatever, he would be a guy that I would add. And I don't think I'd have too many issues with doing that. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Game Time app. Tickets to live events. We love going to live events, sports, comedy, music, theatre, whatever it is. Going to those live events is one of the things that keeps us excited in life. And sometimes getting tickets can be a real pain. What do I do here? Why is there so many options? What does this mean? What is best here? What does that mean? It's all so frustrating. Game Time Picks, though, helps to simplify it and make that process easier. With Game Time Picks, it filters out the fluff. It shows you the good tickets available for your events. So you go in there, you choose them, you're done, you're ready, you're rolling. They've got the views from your seat as well, the all-in pricing, so you don't get surprised with extra fees at checkout. It is all there on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now let's do the next one. I don't know what's more like crazy. Well, actually, no. This is probably one of the craziest things that I have seen. It's the Charlotte Hornets losing to the Grizzlies. 120 to 132. And there's probably numerous layers to this. The Hornets were getting cooked, like by a million points. But Charles Lee just said, all right, starters, you're staying in. And Mark Williams dropped 38 points. No, not fantasy points. 38 real-life points. Mark Williams. The man that didn't start the season for 6 weeks on a minutes limit, he has taken his game to a level that I didn't think was possible. I thought he could be a solid mid-round sort of center. Not this. This is like, do you want to know where he's ranked? Last 2 weeks? 13th. What? Yeah. What? Yeah. 38, 9, and then just a casual 5 assists, 78 from the field, and 77 from the line on 13 attempts. This is high watermark stuff, but Jesus Christ, he is flying. Ridiculous. LaMelo had 22, 8, and 6 on some horrendous shooting percentages, but 100% from the line is great. And then Miles Bridges was solid, 17, 5, and 6. No Brandon Miller, so Nick Smith started, and I think he's just going to continue to start until Miller or Mann come back, and I think that is next season. So Smith had 31 minutes. That's a good start. The rest of it, not as good. 9, 1, and 5, 40% shooting, which honestly, 40% shooting from Nick Smith is a W. He shot 60% on his twos, which is a gigantic W, and just didn't hit threes. He got a steal, he had 5 assists, and if you added him, while it's annoying, the usage is low, I think overall you're okay with that number. I think you're okay. Cody Martin just did his thing, 5, 4, and 1, but a block he's okay to have if you want defensive stats, and you know what you're getting there. Josh Green and Josh Okogie, just seeing who can be the most useless Josh who gets steals. 3 for Okogie and 2 for Green. Not much else going on with them, while Diabate, the backup center, had 2 rebounds and 2 blocks. Just in case, because people did say this, they said they were going to roster Diabate in standard leagues when Richards was traded. Please don't do that. I don't know why you would, but people said it, so I've just got to address it when I do hear something like that at times, just to make sure that they're not still doing it. Grizzlies side, same lineup for them in this game. Demetrius Morant had only 16 points and took 9 shots in an easy victory, but he had 4 rebounds, 13 assists, 3 steals, and a block. And after a few down games, it's good to see a big one from him. And we've got 23, 4, and 3 from the Duck. Luke Kennard, 7 triples as well with 2 steals. That means that Scottie Pippen is basically useless. Please don't hold on to him. And speaking of useless, Zach Edey had 19 minutes, 7 and 6 with a block. Here's a question for you guys. Who do you think is the rookie of the year at this point? Because I went in to have a look at I don't really bet on the NBA at all. Right? I just don't. But I did put some rookie of the year bets on early in the season. One of them, was on Zach Ricochet. One of them was on Alex Sarr at about $7, I think it was. Yeah, about $7. And I went in now, and Ware and Castle and Sarr are all about $3.50 for Rookie of the Year, and Jalen Wells and Ware's like $5, and Jalen Wells in the $3 zone as well. And Edie's about that mark too. It's not Edie, like he's not Rookie of the Year. Do you think Wells is, who had 13 points with 3 threes here? He's been solid enough. Who do you think, who is the Rookie of the Year, seriously, at this point? I actually don't know. Anyway, Edie, you're not holding him. But what about Santi Aldama? Santi, I'll never figure you out, my guy. He left this game early due to an illness, but he was cooking before that. 2 points on 14%. What he did early in the season was fueled by an insane rebound rate and shooting like 5 to 10% above career numbers. And now, he couldn't piss in the ocean if he was standing on the end of a pier. And now he's sick. I always will find it hard to look at Aldama and say, yep, that is an absolute must-roster player. I find that hard to do. But all of his numbers suggest early in the season, well, he's a fringy guy. At the moment, it stinks. So I don't actually think that it's a problem if you wanted to move on from him, honestly, because there's no track record of him doing this. It was fueled by stuff that was very hard to be able to maintain. It hasn't maintained, and now his minutes are down, and his production's suffering. It's hard with Aldama. I find him hard to sort of figure out because of the significant fluctuations in levels of performance that we've been getting. I don't know if there's a huge amount else that's fantasy relevant overall. Like Jaren and Des Bane were both good. They both scored over 20. Bane had another 8 assists with 67% shooting. The sell high is massively on for Bane. And the reason, again, the reason I still believe these things with Bane, for example, is that I had him on the sell high show, and I talked about all the reasons why I think he's a sell high, and then there's always going to be someone who goes, I don't think he's a sell high, I think Bane is just always going to be around this 30 to 40 fantasy ranking number, and he's going to be good. But that's ignoring the way that he got there was by doubling his steal rate and shooting 50% from 3, which, of course, has no chance of sticking, right? But often, people will just even not hear the arguments that I would present or the reasons why somebody got to that spot and still believe that, yeah, he can do that. So the sell high can happen in those spots where someone goes, well, he's 30th. I think he'll be 30th. Bang, let's go. Without understanding, I think, sometimes how we get to those numbers. And maybe he could. He very much could do that for another 6 months. I don't know. But sometimes when you talk about that and you give very specific things as to why it's happening and an argument gets boiled down to round number, then I think that is where you can target and how you can have success in fantasy trades, I think. We'll go on to the next game, which I think is a pretty tough one to sort of wrap your head around. It's the Utah Jazz and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Jazz were up in this game. They kept it really close. They brought everyone back like we thought they might because it was against a good opponent. John Collins returned. He started with Cody Williams out. Lauri Markkanen returned. He started in place of Svi Mykhailiuk, and Colin Sexton returned, and he started in place of Isaiah Collier. So let's talk about it. John Collins started. He had 22 and 12 and played 26 minutes, and they said, "No, I'm sorry, John. You'll need to sit down so we can lose." And that is why I do think this is a massive opportunity to sell high. It's why I know that hip injury was fake also, and I wouldn't be shocked when it pops back up on the injury report. They have a stretch of very good teams to play against, so maybe he keeps playing. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Kessler had 17 and 15 with 2 blocks, and Keontae George shot horribly. The rest is fine. 17, 5 and 9 on 27%, while Markkanen had 17 and 6. You'll notice, a game that was relatively close, still only 30 minutes for Markkanen. Sexton did his thing, which was solid, 18, 4 and 9. So we need to check what that meant for Isaiah Collier. Yuck. 8 points, 2 threes, 2 assists, 30%. He'd been getting very big assist numbers and playing 27 minutes a night. He did not do that here. If I had Isaiah Collier, and I do, so I will speak from a personal perspective here, which I don't really like to do. I don't think it's that interesting for people to say, what did you do in your particular team? Because every single scenario is different. But I am not even for a single second considering dropping Collier at this stage. If they roll Sexton out every single game and he plays 22 minutes, then I'll go, yeah, okay. I'm not, after this one where I think they got a bit of a scare and they said, right, we need 18 EJ Harkless minutes to get us back into the loss column. I think that they might be a little bit more egregious, shall we say, with some of the designations. Mihailuk had 6 points in 16 minutes. Yeah, I think after his last game, I got multiple people go, hey, should we be adding Mihailuk to standard leagues? No, you shouldn't. Even if he starts, I don't think we'd do that. Unless even more players go out. But this game and this team remains in a weird spot. And I don't look at this and go, right, they'll be doing this now as we move forward and these guys will just continue to play. I honestly do not think that'll be the case. But again, of course, we just don't know because it's going to adjust a lot, I think. On the Thunder side of things, they get the victory. There was no Hartenstein or Holmgren, but Jalen Williams did return. We'll start with Jalen. He had 25 points on 50% shooting. That's great. He had 2 steals. Very good game. But what the hell is going on with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? This is a torrid run. Torrid. 54 points for Shai in 37 minutes. Yes, it's against the Jazz, but man, what the hell? 54, 8 and 5. 2 steals. 2 blocks. A 50% usage rate. 50%. Taylor Horton-Tucker wishes he could do that. 50%. He went to the line 18 times and hit 17 of them. That's over 10% of your team's free throw attempts for a week. That locks you up almost for the week. That is an incredible game. Yeah, I know it's against the Jazz, but Jesus, you still got to do it. That is ridiculous. The Hong Kong Mattress went to the bench, Case and Wallace. They started Aaron Wiggins, and Isaiah Joe was out ill in this game, so that meant that... Who was the other guy that moved to the starting lineup? Oh, Jalen Williams returned, of course. Wallace played 36 minutes. He had 13 and 4. That's very good with 3 steals and a block. He is just still hanging around as a 12-team guy, mainly based on steals, but he's hanging around. Caruso got 5 steals with 5 assists, which is an incredible combo. You don't trust him. You don't want to use him. You don't want to consider him a must-roster player. But the steals are good, while Dort, he had 5, 5, and 4. Of course he did. And it was a bad game from the Bronco. Not the Bronco, oh my God, I screwed it up. Can you believe it? Pig Williams. Only 20 minutes. They went very small in this game. He had 3 points and 2 steals and a block. Now, he is a good steals guy for a big man, Jalen Williams. He is fine to stream in while Hartenstein is out, but don't get it confused to think that he's a good player or anything like that. He's fine enough to stream in. And for deeper leagues, Brandon Carlson was on a 2-way. They cut him. They signed him on a 10-day that expired, and they brought him back on the second 10-day. So just see what they do with him. But he's been getting minutes, and he hit 2 threes. And those of you in deeper leagues, that matters. That's important. Wiggins only had 10 points in his 23 minutes, and Joe is going to come back in the next game, I'm guessing. I don't see why he wouldn't. Well, maybe he won't, because there's a lot of people dealing with illnesses, which are just really impacting teams, to be honest. The next game, Cleveland. What a crazy ending to this one against the Rockets. They lose 108-109. Tari Eason commits a terrible foul, and Darius Garland says, don't worry, bro, I gotcha. I'll bail you out. And he did. He bailed him out by missing free throws. So the Cavs still without Evan Mobley, no Levert, no Okoro, so it was the same starting lineup, and Max Strus had 5 points in 23 minutes. It's not happening for Max Strus at any point soon, so I don't think you need to bother holding. Jarrett Allen did well, as he usually does when Mobley's not there, 17 and 13 with 2 steals and 3 blocks. And the Milkman, Ty Jerome, 18 points, 25 minutes, 3 threes and 3 steals. Big game from Milk with Levert out. He has had to increase his role, so if you're streaming in deeper leagues, there's something there. Garland had 26, 2 and 5 with 3 steals. That's all well and good until you see he went 3 of 8 from the line, including missing 2 of those final 3 free throws. He's an excellent free throw shooter, so I have no idea what happened here. And Don Mitchell was again like mid, 19 points on 33%. I avoided him everywhere this season, but not like this. I didn't think this was going to be the case. He's, just really struggling. Dean Wade had 2 steals and a block and played some center in this game as well, which is an interesting development. Something to keep an eye on if Mobley remains out. The Houston side of things, not much changing in terms of their rotation or lineup. Still no Jabari Smith, and they went with the same starting group. And we got 36 minutes again from Amen Thompson. 16 and 16 with 4 assists and 4 steals. Huge minutes, huge production. I love the guy. He's putting up big numbers. It is annoying that it took Jabari Smith being out to get him fully unleashed, but here we are. Van Vliet also, he's put together a couple of big games in a row. 26 with 5 assists and 7 triples for Freddles. That's great. We hope it's not a prolonged slump coming after it, but that's okay. And then Eason, only 20 minutes here, but he got 3 steals. 12 and 6 with 3 threes. His minutes do fluctuate quite a bit, and we've seen that time and time again. Jalen Green, there we go. There's my Jollibee legend. There's the Jollibee Jalen. That's the one we know. The one who puts up some games and everyone goes, oh, he's figured it out, has he? He's a demon. He's going to blow the league away. He's turned it around. 10 points on 25% shooting for the second bad game in a row. This is what he does, and I will continue to tell you that I think he has improved a lot. The gap between good and bad has narrowed, but he's still not him. He's not him. Absolutely not him. Shout out to Stuff? Nah, shout out to Drea Michelle. What else are we looking at here? Şengün, 18, 11, and 4. You'll notice Şengün's minutes, instead of 33, 34, he's playing like 29, 30 now. They're just keeping his minutes lower. It is something, not to say that he's bad or he sucks or anything, but they're keeping those minutes just a bit lower at the moment for the delicate dancer. So we keep an eye on that, and we sort of adjust our expectations, I guess. Dylan Brooks was Brooks, like that's what he is, man. Well, we had a good scoring night from Cam Whitmore. He also added in 2 blocks, but you know what he is. He gets your points. That's what he does. And you stream those in while players are out, and if you need them, you need them. If you don't bank on anything else from Cam Whitmore. All right, let's do the next one. The Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. A lot of changes to the Warriors lineup. They started Kevon Looney ahead of Chase Jackson-Davis, which I think was realistically just to match up with Domantas Sabonis. Jackson-Davis started the second half because Looney got sick, of course he did. And then Buddy Hield moved into the starting lineup to replace Dennis Schroeder, because Schroeder, of course, is terrible. The Warriors lose 123-117. Hield played only 25 minutes, but he was pretty good. And Hield recently has been getting a lot of steals. I don't really know if that's anything we can trust. Probably not. But he had 17 points, 5 threes, and 3 steals. He's at least a 3-point streamer, while Wiggins had 25, 6, and 3. And after shooting 9% last game, that's a really good bounce back, and he should be on rosters. Curry only had 14 points. He only took 11 shots. Keon Ellis basically shut him out. But he got the 14 points. You got the 12 assists, and he doesn't have to play Keon Ellis every game. In fact, he gets Josh Giddey in the next game, so should be okay. With no Draymond, no Kyle Anderson, no Kuminga, no Podziemski, there's going to be some weird rotation things. In fact, Podziemski and Anderson it seems likely could return tomorrow. Be aware of that. So Guy Santos Al-Helper had a big game. 16, 5, and 2 with 4 threes. He shot really well. 23 minutes for Santos, and Moses Moody played 26 minutes, 11 points, 3 and 3. Both of those are like okay-ish type performances, but they're nothing more than a short-term stream thing that when Anderson and or Podziemski play, there's not going to be enough minutes to go around there. They started Gary Payton again for some reason. He had 8 points in 13 minutes. Not working, Steve. Don't need to do it. While Quentin Post got the backup minutes with Looney sick, 5 points, 6 rebounds for Post in his 15. As for Jackson Davis, 11 and 8. That's okay. He does have issues with free throws. He's not a high-end center. He's not a high-upside center. But I would hold him. I don't think that Looney will start tomorrow. He is a back-end player. But like, if you had to swap for Ware, or even for Richards, or for Gafford, it's easy decisions to drop Jackson Davis for those guys. As for Dennis Schroeder, get that garbage out of here. It's the same thing with him every year. Started for the Raptors last season and was good, and then nothing about that made sense, and those numbers are all unsustainable. Then he became bad and droppable. Started this season for the Nets and was unbelievable. And nothing about that was actually believable. It was literally the definition of unbelievable. And it wasn't going to hold. And it didn't. He is bad. He is bad at fantasy. He had 7-3 and 5. You do not need to roster Dennis Schroeder. Let's look at the Kings side of things. And there's honestly not a huge amount, I think, to talk about here. They trotted out the same lineup. Sabonis had 26 and 18. That's great. DeRozan went on a crazy second half run. He had 32 points, but only 2 assists, but somehow got 2 steals and 2 blocks. Malik Monk, another unbelievable game with 9 assists. When I talked about the worry about assists between Fox and Sabonis and DeRozan, I didn't think that Monk was going to come in and get 8 or 9 a game. That's sort of out of nowhere. He's been great. One of the best pickups that you could have made, I reckon, during the middle of this season. 20 and 9 with 3 steals for Monk, while Fox, 18%. It was worse than that, but he hit a shot or two late. 14, 5, and 5, just a bad game. Now, Keon Ellis did his thing defensively, but still, just 21 minutes. A lot of that came in the second half. They basically took Kevin Huerter out of the rotation. Ellis had 2 steals. He had a block. He played great defense. 21 minutes, though, is not enough on a regular basis to be a 12-team guy. Now, maybe the way that things happened in the second half here suggests that he'll get 28 minutes a night, and they'll just cut this rotation down. Because basically, this rotation, like you got 17 Trey Lyles minutes, and then like 6 from Len and 3 from Carter and 6 from Herter. Maybe they cut it even finer, and Alice plays more. It's possible. We know that if there's an injury, Alice will be useful, but it's one of those ones. You've got to debate. Can you deal with a guy that might be an 8-point scorer but get 2 steals but could do a lot more if the minutes come? Or can't you afford that? I can't tell you about your individual roster, but I can tell you that 21 minutes a night, if that is what he does, is not enough to be a must-roster player. But there is potential for more of it. Keegan Murray, just like whatever. It's mid, man. Like, this is what this guy is. I was very much anti-drafting Keegan Murray this season. There's just no upside because of the players around him. 13 points, 3 rebounds. The 2 blocks are nice, but there's not enough for him to do with all these guys here. And I think it's relatively obvious. There's one thing I know I didn't need. That was overtime in the Clippers Celtics game. So I don't care. I'm just, it's late in the day and I need to get the show out. So I'm just going to tell you what happened up until the start of overtime, the end of regulation, because in this game, there was no one playing. Sam Hauser started for Drew Holiday. Luke Cornett started for Kristaps Porzingis. Al Horford was out. And on the Clippers side, well, we'll talk about that in a sec, but everyone was gone. So, like, it was good that Sam Hauser had 15 points in 25 minutes. It was good that Derek White got back on track with 17 points in 37 minutes. Luke Cornett did nothing, but what does it mean? We got 4 steals out of Jaden Springer. The package delivered very well in the second half, but it doesn't matter. Jordan Walsh played 9 minutes, and Nemesh Keita played 22 minutes. And, well, it does matter that Peyton Pritchard struggled again. 36% shooting, 9 points, 27 minutes, and he's very much on the, do I hold this guy? I think you do, but that's always going to depend on individual circumstances, roster settings, positions in the standings, that sort of stuff, because he's not producing at a high enough level. So overall fantasy takeaways from that one, I don't really think there's very much. And on the Clippers side, there's probably less, because Terrence Mann started because Norman Powell was resting. Amir Coffey started because Chris Dunn was resting. Kawhi Leonard was already resting. And then Kevin Porter Jr. started because James Harden was resting in their 3rd game in 4 nights, and they play the 4th game in 5 nights tomorrow. And I expect all of those guys, maybe not Zubats, but all those guys back tomorrow. Derek Jones and Kevin Porter, both 24 points. 24, 6, and 3 with 3 steals for Jones. 24, 4, and 7 with 3 steals for Porter on absolutely elite percentages. Coffey shot 62, Porter shot 58, and Jones shot 63. But again, it does not matter. Porter might be a 10-minute night player. Coffey plays 23. Jones plays 23. All this stuff is very interesting. If there's ever another 4-game in 5-night stretch, there won't be. So it's all well and good that this happened, but who cares? Terrence Mann played 40 minutes, showing us again, never fall for the Terrence Mann trick. 11, 5, and 4 in those minutes, and Mo Bamba also is bad. He had 4 fouls, played 17 minutes, and had 5 points. But what did happen is that we got 33 minutes in regulation of Kobe Brown. 4 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, didn't shoot well, but again, he will get likely 0 minutes. He might play a little bit if Zubats is out in the next game, but overall, again, this game doesn't really matter. 6 points for Jordan Miller, 8 points for Bones Highland in 17 minutes. We had 6 Cam Christie minutes, but when you've got no Harden, Dunn, Leonard, Powell, Batum, Zubats, and it's only incredibly short term, there's no takeaway from this game, like, at all, I don't think. So I don't want to waste any more of your time with it. Let's give out the monstrous line of the night. It's Shai. Like, who else is it going to be? The bloke dropped 54 points with 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Good for him. Your waiver wire line of the night, it's actually Jaden McDaniels, who is turning in a really strong run of form. We know it's probably not going to last, but 27 and 8 with 4 steals and 3 blocks. You use him while this is rolling. That's cool. Your young gun of the night, this man is racking them up at a pretty high level. It is Amen Thompson, who had 16 and 16 with 4 steals. The minutes continue to be up. If someone gave you a top 30 player back in a trade, they probably won't. But if they did, I would take it. Otherwise, I just enjoy it. And the dud of the night, there's always going to be a few candidates for this one, but we go to DeAndre Hunter. 10 points is fine. Nothing else, and he shot 14%. And Hunter has stunk now for quite a few weeks. And that's the end of the recap show. Even if something interesting happens in that overtime game, it's going to have really no fantasy impact whatsoever, so I don't think we need to worry about it. What we do need to worry about is giving the old subscribe and the thumb and all of that stuff over here. We also need to worry about ourselves and our friends and our family And ourselves. Not to be selfish, not to be self-centered, but you do need to look after yourselves. Look after yourselves with eating, exercise, positive thoughts. But more importantly, what's more important? Is it positive thoughts or is it avoiding negative thoughts? Or minimizing negative thoughts? Let's be realistic here. Keep yourselves on track. Focus on one good thing and it all builds. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.